Kindly, can we at least dim the lights such that we can have the slides clear? Thank you. Okay, it's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you can see the slides. In this brief presentation, we are going to talk about universal acceptance. Universal acceptance. But if we don't complete, we are talking about universal acceptance of domain names and email addresses. So briefly, I'll talk about ICANN, what ICANN does. And then we mention on the title local initiative because we want local communities, local groups to take some actions. So this is why the main title is local initiative. So I'll mention briefly what ICANN is doing. And then when we talk about UA or universal acceptance, what does it mean? And then we have a group called UASG, Universal Acceptance Steering Group. So you see what they are doing. And we have some flyers being distributed now, and you have information about this group. And then how can you work on local initiatives? So this is the last slide. I can mainly work in 3 areas. With other partners, ICANN in the internet ecosystem, ICANN is one of the organizations working with other organizations. But mainly, ICANN is working on 3 areas. We call them, or performing some functions. We call them IANA functions. So mainly we have 3 areas where ICANN is working. So the first one is the names. So when I say names, domain names. I'm sure we all have in this room an email address. We all have an email address in this room. So when we take our email addresses, simply when you see the last word or label on your email address, like if my email address is abc.com, so the last word is com, or info.net, the last word or label is net, Yaovi.Africa, so the last word is Africa. So that is what we call the top level domain. So to have a top level domain in the system, this should be created, and by ICANN through a process. So this is the one function of ICANN. So the top level part is what ICANN is delegating to organizations. So if we take countries, for example, we have currently 2 letter code that countries are using. ICANN is not creating the code, but ICANN is just using the ISO existing code for the countries. So this is what we call the country code top level domain. For each country, we have a country code top level domain. And for Angola, for example, is .ao. For Senegal, .sn. For Benin.bj. So this code, you can see them on it online. So we have also the second group that is composed by what we call the generic top level domain. So we have com, we have org, and then today we have more than 1,200. So people, most of the time when they have website, they want to have the website online, they just select what they are used to, but we should know that today we have a lot of options, a lot of choices for the domain name. So that is one area of ICANN. The second area is the numbers. And then when I mention numbers, we have the IP addresses. No, the numbers are here. We have the addresses, and we have also what we call the AS number, autonomous system numbers. So what ICANN is doing is that ICANN is giving blocks to regional registry. So in the case of Africa, ICANN give blocks to AFRINIC. So now AFRINIC works with us. This is why we are here. So in our case, so AFRINIC receive block of numbers from ICANN. And then the last area is the protocol parameters. So ICANN is working with other organizations to maintain this database of these parameters. So we call them IANA functions. So ICANN was created in 1998. ICANN was created in 1998. So ICANN also work in a different way or a specific way. So we have ICANN.org, where we have the staff. We call it ICANN.org. We have the staff, around 400, more than 400 people today working for ICANN. We have the board of directors like we have in AFRINIC. So one seat in the board of directors is for the community. So currently, if you are following the discussion within the community in ICANN, you'll see that we are in the process of replacing or selecting someone for a new term in the ICANN board. So we have the board of directors, and how we have the community. And this community is organized in different groups, two main groups. When we talk about the ICANN community, we have two main groups. So there is a group we call the group of supporting organizations. We call them SOs, supporting organization. We have one group like this. And we have a second group we call the advisory committees, composed by the advisory committees. So, for example, in this group, we have a group called the GAC, Governmental Advisory Committee. So in this group, in the GAC, for example, we have representative from government. So each country has a representative in the GAC. So we still have some countries in Africa without GAC representatives. So when you go to ICANN website or you search for GAC or gacweb.icann.org, you'll see the list of countries. You'll see the name of people representing the various countries. And if you see that there is someone representing the country and maybe no more, or you can check, because in some cases, people, they are selected or by the government and they are retired, and even they didn't inform back the ministry, or they didn't inform people in the country that they are no more participating, or on behalf, you're just using the opportunity to continue attending, not reporting back to the country. So if you go to the website, you will see if there is a representative of the GAC in your country, and you will know the person representing the GAC. Generally, we have one main person and one alternate person. So if you go to gacweb.icann.org, you will see the various representatives. We have other advisory committees. One is called ALAC, At-Large Advisory Committee. In this committee, we have 15 people. We have 3 people from Africa, 3 people from each region. So 2 from Africa are selected by what we call AFRALO. AFRALO is a group of end users association in Africa. The third person in the At-Large Advisory Committee, anyone in this group can be selected. So we have what we call the ICANN Nomination Committee. So when the nomination committee send the announce out, when you feel that you can be in this committee, you just nominate yourself, and then you can be selected. So these are just 2 examples. We have also root server system advisory committee. So the root server is something we just understand that the root server or the root servers are what technical servers that are important for the internet to be working. So technical people will talk about root zone, but the root servers are special servers. We have 13 root servers, and we have 12 organizations managing the root servers. And there's a program where you can have also one instance of the root server in your country. Or if you have an organization, you want to host a copy of the root server, there is an equipment you can get, and then ICANN can help you, because ICANN is also managing one of the root server, which is the L. You have named a letter from A to M for the root server. So if in your organization you want to host an instance of the root server, you just contact the root server operator, and then you can have a copy of the root server. And we have also what we call the supporting organization. So within the GNSO, generic name supporting organization, so the policy development is going there. And then we have also the CCNSO, country code name supporting organization, where you have the representatives of organization managing the country code. So briefly, this is the structure, how the community in ICANN is organized. So you see where you can fit. And then in various groups within the GNSO, we have also a lot of a group within the GNSO. But these details, even when you go to the ICANN website, you see these details. So it is important for all of us to contribute to ICANN, because the staff is working, but the community also is working. So you have many people as volunteer, like my colleague from Uganda. So he's a volunteer in many working groups. So you can just volunteer to contribute to a working groups when there is a need. So there is a lot to do in ICANN. It's not just a technical, ICANN perform technical functions, but even if you do technical functions, you need some policies. And in the policy development, the communities is playing a very important role. So you can contribute if you are a business organization. ICANN is open to everyone. We have 3 public meetings every year. We have 3 public meetings every year. And the last one was in Montreal. And the next meeting will be in Cancun. And then after Cancun, the next meeting will be in Kuala Lumpur. And then as AFRINIC also, ICANN used to offer some fellowship opportunity. So if you want to attend this meeting, you can attend remotely, or if you can travel, you travel to this meeting. It's very open. You just register on ICANN website and you participate to this meeting. So this is what ICANN is doing. So ICANN is the organization coordinating this function globally, so that internet keeps working. So ICANN is not involved in content. No. ICANN is performing functions that allow people to use services on the internet. So I want to now move to the subject of the main subject, which is the universal acceptance. I mentioned domain names. So I started by domain names. I mentioned that ICANN is managing the top level domain name. So just the top level domain name. So if the top level domain is delegated to one organization, now the organization has the full function to manage the domain name, like .africa. You have .africa here. So I can delegate .africa to one organization. So if you want your name or your organization .africa, for example, you go and you see this organization, and then they register the domain name for you. Now, we have since 2014, we have a program we call New Generic Top-Level Domain Name Program. So from this program, we have now more than 1,200 new domain names. So we have a lot of choices. So something is also important is that don't limit yourself just to one domain name, because you can say someone come to you asking you to take a domain name under his top-level domain name. You say, okay, I already have one. You can take more than one, so that tomorrow no one take your name and register. So if I know very important organizations here, I can take their name and go and register under a domain of interest. So think about that. You don't have to limit yourself just to one domain name. So if you have a .com or .org, you can even take also .ao.africa. You take all of this, and then technical people know how to do that. Then, so that when you click on any of these names, you go to the same website. That is very important. So we have what we call also international domain name. That is what I'm going to talk about on this slide. So the universal acceptance, why are we mentioning universal acceptance? So this is what is the sign of an email address here, for example. You have this symbol, you have the symbol. These are email addresses. These are the email addresses. And there is a topic I didn't cover too much on this slide, is what we call the IDN, Internationalized Domain Name, International Domain Names. So what is an international domain name? So till recently, we had only domain name using ASCII characters to write domain name, A to Z. So we were using that. But we have now, we are able to use other characters in other scripts to write domain names. I'm not talking about content in different languages. So anytime we mention internationalized domain name, it's not content. It's the domain name in other character than the ASCII character. So the Universal Acceptance Steering Group published this result. So in 2007 and 2019, so they have tested 1,000 websites to see if this website are accepting all these type of domain name. See here, you have test at test.exp. So it is a short one. So if you take dot example, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 characters. If you take dot Africa, I think it's 6 or 7. Africa, how many characters? 6 characters. So it's no what is. So this one is .com is 3 character, org is 3 character, net is 3 character. So you have Africa, which is 6, example, which is 7 characters. So if you take this email address, for example, you have this one is in ASCII, you have the arrobas, and you have this one, this level, you have the top level, which is org, you have the top level, which is ASCII, and then you have an IDN label, which is there. And then you have ASCII here again. So here you have an IDN label, you have IDN here, and have Unicode. So these are characters, not only ASCII characters. So the test, the result from the test is showing how many websites globally are accepting these email addresses. Let me give you a concrete example. Like you have a project for eGov project, and you want people to bid for something. So you put the information on the website. So we have to keep in mind today that maybe there is someone in the country where they are using now email addresses which are longer like .africa, or which are in different characters than the ASCII characters. So we have to keep in mind that today people are using email addresses that are domain name that are longer, and also domain name that are not only on ASCII characters. So when coding the website or the platform where people should post the information, when the coding is not correct, or when we are coding, we didn't consider that today we have a longer domain names, and then we have also domain names in older characters. So these people, they cannot send the information. So someone can have his email in his own script, his email address, but send the message in English. So the email address is in Arabic, for example, or in Amharic, or in Chinese. The person is using the email address in a different script, but the message the person is typing could be in Portuguese, or in French, or in English. So that is the point. So our system to be set today to allow people to use their own email addresses, to use new domain names, and then to send message to communicate through various platforms. This is the result we got some years ago. So the Universal Acceptance Initiative. So all domain names and all email addresses should be working in all software and applications. That is the concept. So all the domain names and the email addresses should work in all the application and also through all the system, because we have also the soft part and the hard part, which are the equipment. So they should be able to allow all the domain names that are in the system to work. So again, an example, you see this one. we have newer top-level domain names, so like .sky. So we have a lot of choices, as I told you today. We have .global, for example. This is what we call internationalized domain names. So you see, I think it's Arabic. I don't know Arabic. I think it's Arabic. Probably. So I think this one is Arabic, you see. So the international domain name, you should not be as A-level. So the system converts what you tap, and it can go through the. It should not be like this. So people should be reading like this. So if it is in Arabic, people should read from right to left. And then we have what we call also internationalized email addresses. So this is an example of an internationalized email address. This is in Hindi language, you see. So I don't know this one, but even I don't know Hindi language, someone should be able to use this email address to send me a message in French, in English, in Portuguese. The person should be able to send the message. So this is the domain name part. So that is not in ASCII characters. So the problem is that what the Universal Acceptance Steering Group is working on. So there is a website, this group, Universal Acceptance Steering Group, there is a website where you can go. You go there, https, then usg.tech/EAI-check. So if you go to this website, the system will give you the opportunity to type your email address. So if you test, you will see if you have a Gmail address, it will tell you the system is Universal Assembly ready, because we have many big companies who have already worked, who have already done what is necessary, so that when people use internationalized domain name, the email address, or people can communicate through their system. So this one you have on the slide, so you can use that before to test if you have a domain name, or you can test if your email system is universal acceptance ready. So that is these are the categories affected. So we have domain names affected when we talk about universal acceptance, and then we have email addresses. So we have domain names, and then we have email addresses when we talk about universal acceptance readiness. So application should be able to do the following for all domain names and email addresses. The application should accept these email addresses and domain names. The application should accept them. They should validate also. So they validate, it will go through them. They can store, they can process, and they can display. So if there is something in a different language or using a different set of character than ASCII set of character, the system should be able to do all this with these domain and email addresses. So we have what we call the Universal Acceptance Steering Group. The Universal Acceptance Steering Group. So is a group addressing the universal acceptance of domain and email addresses to address this problem, so that people should be able to use all the email addresses and domain name in different script, other script than ASCII, to use them. So they have a lot of documentation. When you have the slide, they have some documentation you can see on the website. For example, you have the guide to universal acceptance. So a guide to email address internationalization, for example. Case study for some government like India. We have some government very active in this one. They want to have to make their system ready. So so they continue working currently. They are still active now. And then this is the structure. We have the chair for this working group, and then we have 3 vice chair. So this is the leadership team, and then we have a coordination group where, in addition to the leaderships, we have the chair of the working group. So we have different working groups for universal acceptance, and then we have the community. So we are all part of the community we are talking about. So this working group has a working plan for fiscal year 20. This is this fiscal year. So in ICANN, the fiscal year starts in July, the 1st of July, and ending on the 30th of June. So fiscal year 20 started in July and will be ending on the 30th of June. So they have an action plan in this group. So we have various stakeholders in the community. We have them in various groups in the community. So we have the group we call the technology enabler. We have the technology developers. We have the email software and service providers. We have the influential individual organization, and we have government policymakers. So we have these various community stakeholders very active or working in the UASG problem. So we have working groups also. We have various working groups. As I mentioned, if you are interested, you can join one of the working group on universal acceptance. So we have one, which is working on technology. We call it the technology working group. So we have one group on the universal acceptance working called the technology working group. So this group plan, coordinate, and oversee works on standards, best current practices, programming languages, tools, and development platform. So we have another working group we call the email address internationalization working group. We have a group we call like measurement working groups. In this group, they plan, they oversee, and they direct the measurement effort for universal acceptance readiness. So we have communication group. So people, they communicate to various people about this initiative. And here we have also local initiative working group and people we call universal acceptance ambassador. There are individuals that apply to be ambassador for universal acceptance. So when you go to uasg.tech, you'll see what is required to become a universal acceptance ambassador. So I'll try to move a bit quick. So you see on this slide the interaction between the group and the organizations. Like if you take the technology working group, so they are working with tech enablers, tech developers, email address internationalization provider. We have the email address internal working group working with them. So this is the interaction between the organization and the working groups. So what is local universal acceptance local initiative? So this is the information we want to share. So the purpose is with the support to undertake the following action: plan and undertake outreach and collaborate with the stakeholder identified by UASG. So if you want to work on a local initiative, that is the intention. Also to identify opportunities for and review the messaging and communication for local stakeholder. If I mention local, this local can be linked to your group or your area of expertise. So that is what we mean by local initiative. So currently we have focus on some regions, even including Africa. But you see languages you have in some area, you have a lot of languages. In Africa, we have also more than 3,000 languages. But most of the languages in Africa, they are using ASCII Latin script. So many languages in Africa are using Latin script and also Arabic script. So, but in other regions, you have a lot of scripts in other regions. So Africa is also considered here. So you can contribute, you can submit a proposal for a local initiative. So the outcomes, so it can be a technical collaboration if you submit a local initiative. It can be a technical collaboration. It can be just for general outreach, or it can be for engagement in the public sector. So one of these outcome can be your focus. And if you consider, for example, for technical collaboration, if your focus is on technical collaboration, that is what you can do. collaborate with technology developing organizations to implement universal acceptance and readiness in the software development cycle. So like if you have a group of developers in your country, you may be interested in talking to these people, work with these people to know that their software are universal acceptance ready. This is just an example. And then we have also suggested outcome for when you want to do general outreach, for example, in your local initiative. So you may want to publish article locally in technical and non-technical journals, for example. So it can be an initiative. If you are in a media, you can also initiate initiative. And also public sector engagement. If you are from government side, so you can have also action plan to work within the government or public sectors. This is what I want to share with you because in the current ICANN strategy plan from 2021 to 2025, we are putting a focus on universal acceptance and readiness. We want all the communities to be able to use the languages, the scripts for domain names. So because of time, I want to stop there. So if you are interested or you want to take an action or you want to submit a local initiative, so you can read more or you can send an email to this email address, uafg.tech, and you can also join one with the working group. So if you click on the link, so you have a list of working group and you can select one of these working groups. So thank you very much. I want to stop there. Maybe we can take a few questions before the next presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yaovi, for that great presentation. Quite a number of times, people have tried to ask themselves this question: why is it that if in case I'm to send an email, and this email is showing in Chinese, how come that it is not reaching its destination? Then today, I think you could be having an answer to that question. In case you don't have an answer, would you like to just simply give the reason as to why when the email appears in Chinese and it goes and it doesn't come back, or it doesn't reach its destination, what could be the cause in just one sentence? Yeah.
So you have an email address in Chinese.
Yes.
And the email address cannot send.
Yes.
Send to you.
Yes.
So simply because when you send an email address, when you send a message, when you send a message with your email address, it goes through platforms. It goes through email systems like software, also servers. It will go through ISPs. So when the various platforms where your email is going through are not ready, universal acceptance ready, so the email will not reach. Like within your organization, for example, if your organization email system is not universal acceptance ready, it will not accept this email because it will not recognize this email address with Chinese characters. That is the problem. So it will not recognize the email addresses with Chinese characters. So your system should be able to recognize. This is what I was saying, that even if you are not expecting to read in Chinese, you should be able to allow your system to receive the message, because the person is using his email address in Chinese, but the person is writing in Portuguese, for example. So if your system is not allowing that, so you'll be missing the message. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yaovi. Let me, there's a question right on the floor. In case you have